Hey, you at the agency. It can take you 3 months to land one client and one email to screw it all up. Check out this video to see some great tips about how to reduce churn, keep your business, and keep growing in 2020.
That one again. Gentlemen. I was trying to get you. No. This week we're talking about how to demonstrate value through results to decrease churn. Something near and dear to our hearts, as we all know. It's going to be an exciting conversation. I mean, I know it's something we talk about a lot here. Why is churn so important to an agency?
Yeah, well, churn, on the flip side, is really, it really hurts an agency. The activity around getting a client to a place of first of all, getting them on, getting them, growing them, and then having them leave is the equivalent of running in place. And you want your agency to constantly be moving forward and growing clients. And there's a lot of bad things about churn. I mean, when a client leaves you, they're not saying good things about you. And that's number one. And the other thing is the activity around that. It's bad optics internally. When people leave, so it's running in place, and what we want our agency friends to do is run forward.
What are the biggest reasons agencies churn clients?
I think 2 words: improper expectations. I think that what we've seen as we're executing campaigns, I think OTT is a good example. People might not be seeing Hulu come in, to an ad, but the budget that they're utilizing is maximized at a lower entry point. So Pluto, which is no slouch, it is a rock star in the OTT industry, is where a lot of their ads are being delivered. They might not have heard of it. They're just seeing Hulu. We've even heard like Netflix and Disney Plus platforms that don't deliver ads. Being like, oh, why aren't I seeing my ad on this? So I think that making sure that the clients fully understand what they bought, guiding them through, I think showing them an example report before they have even signed on, it's just important to make sure that their expectations are aligned with what they purchased.
I think to add on to Rob's point, expectations also has another level, right? So before a client starts working with an agency, they have to have reasons why they're working with that agency. And a lot of times we overlook the actual goals as to why they want to work with that agency. So we talk about all of the campaign goals, but we don't talk about how did you find us? Where did you find us? Why do you want to work with us? And discuss what you want that relationship to look like going forward, which is extremely important.
Right. And I think to dovetail on that, I think one of the things that a lot of digital agencies do in particular is lead with math. And it's the wrong math. I think the math of CPC and the math of the number of impressions is so much less significant to a business owner than how many people walked in and purchased or purchased online. And ultimately, we say all the time around here, it's CPC, it's SEO, but it's really ROI.
Right.
And the ROI has to be really part of the upfront discussion. What do you want to happen at your business? If you're going to spend $5,000 on a campaign, whether it's traditional or whether it's in digital, what has to happen in your business for you to continue to want to do that?
We were just having that conversation today with a client, actually, and focusing on ROI first is so important. So in the first few weeks of any campaign, we're really gathering data, we're testing, we're trying to produce results, but the data is going to dictate how to go about that. It's important that a baseline is established of how this is working at the bottom of the funnel, conversions, leads, how that's impacting your business. I wouldn't even necessarily show impressions or show clicks right off the bat, because that math becomes so important once it's established that this many impressions on a percentage basis leads to this many clicks, which on a percentage basis leads to this many conversions, which on a percentage basis leads to this much real return on ad spend for you. So I think you have to start here and work your way up, and I agree. I think so many cases we see people start here and then try and work their way down. You're chasing your tail at that point.
Yeah, and I think it starts, as you mentioned, in the sales process. If you're just going to rush in to close the deal and then just throw it over the fence, it's a recipe for churn right away.
Right.
If you're just rushing through and not really doing your true understanding the needs of the client and knowing that ROI and what the value of a purchase means, you're just, again, running in place and you're setting yourselves up for failure. And I think that's really what leads to churn in the end.
People buy advertising for a reason, and it's usually, and it's not always the same reason. So getting to the bottom of what it is they're really looking to have happen at their business, and then having your solution be able to drive that end result, I think is what it comes down to. And if you can establish that up front, then all the math that you've got can support that direction, and that makes better sense.
And a lot of people don't do that. So, a lot of clients would want a check mark beside whatever it is you're doing. So if it's PPC or SEO, are you doing PPC or are you doing SEO? It's just, yes, I am, yes, I am. And then they leave it there.
Right.
But, it's the job of the agency to push a little bit to find out what exactly they want to do and why they want to do that.
Right.
And that brings it back to having honest conversations.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
How do you have an honest conversation with the client when they're telling you, I know what's right, and then being able to have to show them or just have a blunt conversation with them that you're not right?
Well, I think that no one wants to be told they're not right? But the fact of the matter is, I think we as an agency can't be held accountable for producing results any other than our way. So if we're going to write a prescription, we have to know what's in that medicine.
Right.
And I think that's what it really comes down to, is the ability to say, listen, I heard you loud and clear what you want to have happen at this business, with your business, and there are steps to that. We're not going to go from here to here probably, but our job is to help you grow and get there, and there have to be benchmarks, and it's got to be supported by return on investment. But ultimately, it's got to be done in a way that allows us to achieve that, not doing it the client's way and trying to, achieve our collective result their way.
I think there has to be a compromise. If you're going to just do it your client's way because you want to just please and say yes, start the clock because that client's going to churn because
doubt.
they didn't hire you for them to give the direction.
Right.
If you're telling them that they're wrong off the bat, same thing, because they probably know their business better than you know their business.
Right.
I think that the truth always lies somewhere in the middle. And if they're looking for a direction that might be, just empirically, we might know doesn't work, they're still bringing that up for a reason. So I think that being willing to test for your client, being willing to say, you know what, this won't work, but here's something that will. And then when you want to have that conversation about this didn't work, have it with data.
Have data
Numbers
support
don't
it,
lie.
100%.
Numbers don't lie.
Yep.
If you're saying no and it's just based on your opinion, then it's a combative relationship right off the bat. So I think that compromising with your client, working together, and then making intelligent decisions based on data, is nothing's more honest
because
than
some
that.
clients are saying, I just want to see my ad. Like, I just want to see my ad. And now that's a happy client, right? So there's a fine line you have to play there. That it's the reality of what the world that we live in. If I just want to see my ad on OTT, we could do that, absolutely. But then the data's going to support, well, we just spent some impressions on you. Then are you happy
This
now?
is a very expensive ad for you to see, by the way. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's an interesting, it's just the relationship that you build and having that give and take and having an honest conversation, setting the right expectations.
Right. So we have to think about this from a partnership perspective. So as Rob was saying, they know their business better than you do. On the client side, on the agency side, you know your business better than they do. And so it does lie in the middle. When you're having those honest conversations, those lead to educational discussions where you're saying what you want about your business, the agency is supplying that knowledge, and then it leads to
It leads
That's exactly what it leads to.
It leads to a strong partnership.
less churn, basically.
Right.
Because the client knows exactly what
Right.
it is that, sometimes clients just want to confirm. So they read things somewhere, somebody tells them something, they're getting barraged by emails. They just want to confirm with the agency that this is what I've heard, is this true? And it's the agency's responsibility to discuss through that and educate the client
Yep.
whilst using their business goals as the platform on which they do that.
We talk a lot here about trust and credibility are really the things that have to be sold on a regular basis to any client. If they don't trust you, it's going to be a hard relationship to manage. If you don't have the credibility in what it is that you're saying to guide them, then they're not going to pay attention.
Right.
So I think those are the two things, and I know that in every sale that we've gotten ourselves into, we say the first things and the ongoing things that we've got to maintain in this relationship are trust and credibility, and those things can't be broken. So it is listening. a lot. I think we've always talked about 2 ears, 1 mouth. Use them in that proportion. So it's listening to your client, but ultimately the client's telling you what it is that they want. I think in our space, in the ad space, it's us assisting them in how to do it.
I think trust and credibility can be proven through transparency as well. And I don't know if you're going to be talking with an agency, a fulfillment agency, any business that isn't using transparency as a buzzword for why to work with them at this point. But just like trust and credibility are proven, I think transparency is proven as well. And I know that in kind of last week we had talked in effective communication about proactive communication and owning mistakes. I mean, this is not automation. These are people run businesses. Mistakes are bound to happen. And when those mistakes are covered up or when they're hidden and then they reveal themselves 2 months down the road, that's an immediate recipe for churn. I think that if you have honest conversation and you own to, I either made this mistake or this idea didn't work. Maybe I brought you an idea and it didn't work. But let's have an honest conversation about what aspect of it maybe did work and then how can we try, to make this work going forward. Clients shouldn't have the expectation that they're going to start with you here and it's just going to just be a skyrocket. That's going. There's going to be bumps and there's going to be peaks.
To your point about it starts with the culture at the agency. Everybody at the agency has to be able to say, "Hey, I made a mistake." No one's ever been hired knowing that a mistake wasn't going to be made. So I think owning your mistake. Knowing that there's, the agency's always going to go over and above to mitigate that. I think that's cultural, and I think it's just got to happen to feed that whole area of trust.
Yeah, and then
you don't want your client to find out that the mistake was made before you went to them and told them. And how many times have we gone to clients where we say, we did make a mistake, and they may have never, ever caught that mistake, but we know we made it, and we've got to take care of it right away.
And it just shows that strong partnership between, the client agency, the fulfillment agency, everyone involved. And I think that's what really creates a good relationship. And really, that's where reduction of churn comes in because everyone's on the same page, and that's super important.
I think understanding why a client leaves is very, very important for everybody, right? Understanding why the client left from the client's perspective is the way for the agency to get better at what it is that they do. Good communication leading. Once clients have made that decision, they tend to make that decision. We have a client that just left us because they're bringing things in-house, and it's a massive scale that they're trying to work at, and we've actually helped them facilitate that in-house movement. So I think it's how you leave as well, that might keep the door open for the future. I don't know that there's a rate of churn that's ever acceptable. It's like losses. If you ask LeBron James, is it okay to lose? I'm pretty sure he's going to say never, right? So churn's not something that we should kind of bake in, I think, to the recipe. But learning from every single client that might want to leave is just so paramount.
I think having the understanding of the data, though. So if we are going to be looking at stuff like churn rate as a form of measurement. Not even that there's exceptions to every rules, but there are explanations for every rule. So if a client's leaving you because of performance, whatever the explanation is, all right, count that as churn. But we've had countless times where a client has left us either during a recruitment campaign or during a few other things where they are at capacity. They accomplished their goal, and they ended early. And having that just go down as a metric of churn, is silly. That, if anything, that's a huge win.
It's a churn with an asterisk.
Exactly. So I think that presenting like the true story, not just being so lost in the numbers, is important. True.
All right, we talk about demonstrating value through results to decrease churn, but not just the math and the metrics to reduce churn. What are some other ways, as an agency, you can reduce churn?
So I think one of the big things is, a lot of clients wants to keep their business assets in one place. So they want to run ads with an agency that knows exactly what you're doing, has a full solution, digital solution in-house. And if you're not offering that, that presents a problem. So I think that being able to be strategic and diagnosing exactly what the client wants to do through digital channels.
It goes back to the pain point previously, is offering a complete solution.
Yeah.
right? And I think
that complete suite.
That complete suite
Yeah.
is really what helps to reduce churn, because we talked about every time you don't offer a product or service for that agency, you're putting your agency at risk for that competitor to reach in your pocket and take, or reach to the client and take away your client.
Right.
I honestly think that almost every pain point we've talked about leading up to this is a way to reduce churn.
You're right.
So I think that if looking at ways to maximize the client's data opportunity is important, because if you're not, someone else will. If you're not actively looking to land and expand this client, so you're working with them to grow them, not for your wallet, but because it's what they can do, someone else is going to have more optimistic feelings about your client and present a brighter picture, and then be able to take them away. So I think everything we've talked about, if you can address these pain points, is a great way to reduce churn. And I think that we've touched on it, but I think hands down the most impactful area is just effective communication. I know that you have a few kind of points on that.
I agree. I mean, at one point, we had over 2,000 clients a month that we were actively managing here. And to do that, you need to come up with a process for communication and then execute that communication flawlessly. And we talk all the time here about getting out in front of things. We talk about good, informed, solid communication, understanding from the client's perspective. Campaigns aren't linear. I mean, there's always a bump or a hiccup that happens. And so when the client, it has to have a really an open lane to get to us to be able to address those changes in their campaigns or the hiccups that that occasionally happen, timelines. And they've got to be able to get that to us, and then you've almost got to have the communication built into the agency machine, so that the dominoes fall when we get that bit of information. Boy, the dominoes fall in the right way, so that everybody's moving to address that that particular piece of communication that we got. But I think proactive is such a great word to use for communication. You shouldn't have to wait to be asked for things by a client. When we see something, let's say something. And I think that's probably not a bad idea in the client realm. It speaks to the honesty that we've been talking about. It speaks to the trust and the credibility that we've been talking about. So I guess when you see it, say it.
I mean, we talked about three really key elements, right? Setting the proper expectations, having honest communication, and proving ROI and ROI, return on ad spend, through the entire campaign. So I think, Rob, you said it perfectly. As we continue to have these discussions, it's all rolling into the same. It's all just impactful information that really, in the end, is to reduce churn for agencies. We don't want client churn. No one wants client churn. Setting the proper expectations are priority number one. I think once you do that, everything just sets itself in place.
Check us out on LinkedIn for more great content like this.
Okay.